Hey guys, it's me, Dr. Jennifer Otter Bickerdike, and thanks for joining me for another edition of Inside the Music Industry. Today I'm in Brighton, and I'm really pumped because I have Henry WP with me today. Thank you so much for coming along, Henry.
All right, no worries.
So I've heard quite a bit about you from friends down here in the Southeast. Can you tell me, like, what are you doing in Brighton to make a name for yourself? What is your profession?
So I guess officially I'm a DJ and promoter. So I do just general nights in Brighton, specifically a few different genre types, and then that's sort of my main thing almost. And then the sort of bread and butter of it all is just DJing at loads of different venues in Brighton on a sort of weekly basis.
How did you start doing that?
Well, I've always been sort of interested in the sort of DJ side of things ever since I was probably about 14 when I first got my first pair of decks.
Really?
Yeah.
Did mom and dad get them? Did you save up? Like, how did you get those?
I saved up and just bought them from like a second-hand electronics place. Yeah.
What were they? Do you remember?
I don't. They were like these Newmark ones. These like really dodgy Newmark decks. They were direct drive though, because all I wanted to learn really was how to scratch and stuff. So I needed something. All I knew was that I needed something that was direct drive. So what I used to do was I used to get taken down to the local record shop by my dad. So I used to just pick up just sort of really cheap records. But basically, how I got into DJing was my mate, when I was about 18, my mate started a night in London.
Is that where you're from?
No, not originally.
Yeah, where are you from?
I'm from Ashford in Kent.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So all my family, well, a large part of my family are from London. And they moved down to Ashford to have me. And then I moved back up basically to where they're from. So my mate started this night in London called Ricky Tix. It was like a psych 60s garage and psych night, and I was interested in that kind of music at the time. I was about 18.
How did you even find out about that?
I think it was just sort of it must have been from bands that I'd sort of heard at that time, people like the Hives, sort of mid 2000s, sort of influx of the bands, you know.
Yeah.
So it was like obviously the White Stripes, the Hives, Strokes, exactly.
You had that kind of dirtier, almost like late 60s, 70s sound that was making a big comeback then.
Exactly, yeah. And so from that, I kind of got into sort of a lot of garage and psych. And I started, and my mate did this night. So he said, bring some records down. And I had about 20 probably at that time. 7-inch, by the way. So we had to do, that was the thing. It was only really 7-inch singles that you could DJ. Like, it wasn't, I had a load of 12s, but I only had about 20 7-inch singles. So I knew that was about enough to sort of, if you do sort of like...
It's like an hour set, isn't it? About?
Yeah.
With a tiny bit of wiggle room.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, not much. Did you have a little case? Cause, like, I'd love
little,
to. 45 case?
I had like an old... because I was just obsessed about how I looked rather than how I sounded. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I had this like great like original 60s like orange and like cream swirl like psychedelic like single case, and it only carried about I don't know like 40 records or something.
But looked fabulous.
Yeah, exactly. It looked like a little handbag.
So you bring your 2045s into London, and you're playing them in front of people. Had you ever DJ'd in front of anyone before?
No, I hadn't. I hadn't. Not. I'd done it in front of like mates in my bedroom when I had those decks I was talking about, and that wasn't really even DJing. That was just playing instrumental versions of songs so that they could rap over the top of it, basically. Because I had all these other mates that were into MCing and stuff. So yeah, I'd never really done anything in front of people before, but I was like kind of full of confidence, young, and just like I can do this sort of thing. Like, just show me what I need to do, and I'll just do it. And yeah, just went from there.
When you stepped up to do it, I mean, because I've DJ'd on everything, and vinyl is just I mean, I don't personally think if you're bringing a USB stick, that's DJing. Just me personally. Because vinyl, you have to be so in tune with so many things. And for you to be, that's the first thing you're DJing on, that takes massive balls. But you just like, that's my world, so I'm going for it.
Kind of, yeah. And it was just sort of like, I kind of didn't really feel like I knew anything else.
Which is strange, which is cool and strange being the age that you are. You know what I mean?
It's weird. I mean, obviously I knew, I grew up with a sort of mix of, I was right in the sort of mix of tapes going onto CDs and a lot of records going onto tapes. So I was in that sort of, that bubble of when everything started changing format into digital.
Do you have older brothers and sisters too?
Sorry?
Do you have older siblings?
Yeah, well, I've got one older brother.
One older brother.
One older brother and one younger brother.
Was the older one into music too?
Yeah, massively.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And my mum and dad massively as well. So, so it was kind of weird because it was like, I'd always use CDs, but then whenever I came to do anything that was like on something.
Or important.
Yeah, it was like, it was always records, which kind of made it more like an event kind of thing. It was more like, okay, I'm not just listening to music, I'm doing something, if that makes sense.
I love that.
Yeah. No,
I love that. It's really funny. I mean, like now, it's so, I never think I want to buy that on CD. Like, I'll hear a song, I'm like, I must have the vinyl. Must have. Like, my dream is to get a jukebox. Like, I'm desperate for a jukebox.
That'd be amazing.
And like, I constantly am like, I'll just hear, like I will just go on a spree of being like, oh my God. Like, I just brought the Pina Colada song. Do you know that song?
Yeah.
I just bought that on 45. And like, I never think that about CD. I'm never like, I want to get that on CD. I always think I want it on 45 for some reason.
Yeah.
It's just such a different experience.
Yeah, and it makes it, I think if you're buying something, I mean, CDs, I guess, is almost like obsolete now, but if you're buying something digital in that you're downloading it or however you buy it, whether you download it for free or whether you buy it when you download it, it kind of gets lost because it's not, because it's just a thing that is there. Yeah. It's not like tangible. It's not something that you open. You don't. You just literally put it, like, play it, and you're kind of forgotten about it, or it's just sort of lost in the world of all these things that aren't tangible. Yeah.
Was really, sorry, I totally am interrupting you, but what was I had this question for my last book, it was about vinyl records. I had a question about what does the resurgent interest in vinyl say about space and place? And people got really confused by that. They're like, what do you mean? And it really was tied into what you're saying, because every single time you move, or even like, I live in London, so I have a very small house. So if I'm going to buy that 45 of Escape, the Pina Colada song, that's going to take up space in my already very limited space. And then if I'm going to move, it has to go from A to B. And I think it is definitely like you're putting more importance on it when you have it's tangible, if that makes sense.
Definitely. And it becomes part of, you know, like you wouldn't, the way I see it is you wouldn't buy a digital print of an artwork, a piece of art, you know, like you'd buy a physical thing and you'd have it up in your house or whatever. You wouldn't buy it just for your computer, just for you to look at whenever you wanted to look at it. You'd buy it and you'd have it up, you know, or like an ornament. You wouldn't, I don't know, download a picture of something or just save a picture of something and just look at it.
That's so true. I never thought that way.
So it's almost like that.
Can you imagine?
It's like,
that's so weird. It's like,
right?
Look at it on my phone. Look at it, isn't it great? Right? Yeah, that is so true.
Which is kind of where photos are at. Photos or like images and music are kind of on a similar sort of thing because there's a resurgence of vinyl and there's a resurgence of film.
What was the first record you bought with your own money, and what did that record mean to you?
Okay, so the first ever record that I bought would have been. I was sort of thinking about this earlier, and I think it was RZA's Bobby Digital album, the first one. So Bobby Digital in stereo, or whatever it was called. That was the first one because my dad used to take me to this record shop. There was only one record shop in Ashford where I lived. Tiny, absolutely tiny. And it was always like, it was always cool. If you were going in there, it was like, it was you as a kid, and then all these adults that were like, knew what they were doing, you know, they were looking through records. And so it was like, wow, this is kind of cool. It was intimidating, but it was cool. And yeah, that was the first record that I bought, and I bought it purely because, I mean, I was into Wu-Tang anyway, and I knew RZA, obviously, and I saw the cover and I was just like, I'd never seen it before.
So that's your very first record. Yeah, you can get some water. That's a good record for it to be your very first record.
I think the second record must have been the Wise Guys. You know, Wise
Oh
Guys?
my God, with the body in motion, doo doo doo. I worked on that record too.
Really? So the Antidote, that album.
That's not a bad second record.
No, it's not. Well, this is the thing. The first record, that was the one. I bought it and I didn't even have a record player, which I hate when people do that. But I was about 11, 12
Records
at the time.
weren't cool. The fact they were even buying records
No,
is
they
amazing.
weren't.
Yeah.
And it was like the reason I got it was because my dad used to always say, you should get it because it's big and it's like a big piece of artwork. It looks great. And I always think that's always stuck with me. That it's not just this tiny little thing where the case is going to break on a CD or a tape. The case is going to break. The plastic's going to be all crap and like either the CD will get scratched or the tape loop will come out of the actual cassette. And it's always great looking at, like, you know, when I had CDs, I used to study the booklet for like all the samples and things. I would, you know, if I'd bought a CD, I'd be on my way home, like literally reading everything because I was so excited to listen to it.
You're born 10 years too late, darling.
I know, right? And so my dad was like, really, like, you should buy the record because, you know, vinyl's way better because it's like, you know, you've got this big bit of art, like I said. So I bought that and I could only play it on his record player, and his record player wasn't in my room or anything, and it was kind of like, it didn't really feel like it was mine. And so I ended up, I don't know, I swapped it, I think, with someone for like maybe like a few CDs, which is really bad.
Oh, we always do these things, youth.
I know, right? And so I've never seen it since. Like, I must have been about 12 or 13 when I swapped it, and God knows what happened to it. So then my second record, which was probably when I was about 12 or 13, 12 I reckon, was The Antidote, Wise Guys. And then that, I ended up swapping with my brother for something else, another record maybe, or something, I can't even remember. And for about 10 years, when I sort of got back into listening to big beat and that kind of genre, I was so gutted that I'd swapped that album. I was like, God, he's got such a good album there. It's so good. And I'm so gutted. And then it took me to about 3-4 years ago, and I bought it again. Like an original copy, so it's like, so I kind of feel like I'm
retribution.
Yeah, it's not quite, but I've got it.
Now you're enough younger than me. Do you find that you're buying records that you had or your parents had when you were growing up? Do you find that you buy those records for yourself now?
Yeah, definitely.
It's so weird. Like I'm
really
like trying to recreate the record collection my parents had when I was growing up. It's bizarre.
Oh, it's
and
like
they're so expensive now.
Yeah, and the weird. Yeah, it's almost like, you know that thing where they say like you shop for clothes that you already have.
Yeah.
So you like subconsciously go to. So like I'll see stuff that my parents had, or even that I've got when I'm shopping in a record shop, and I'll be like interested in it. I'm like, hang on, I've already got this. Or like, you know, but what's weirder, I think, now is, or when I first sort of started to realise that I needed to sort out my record collection a bit more and stuff, I started buying the CDs that I'd already bought 10 years ago. Like, I mean, I'd buy the CDs that I'd bought on vinyl. And so that was weird.
That's also reverse.
Yeah.
Because like when I was in my like teens, early 20s, that you're supposed to replace the vinyl with the CD. So you're doing the exact opposite.
Yeah, exactly. It was weird. It was weird because it was like, there was no excitement to it either, because I was like, I've got this. I've done this album to death. Like, remember when I got 36 Chambers, the Wu-Tang album? It took me years to get that, like a decent copy of it, not like a reissued thing or anything. It was like an original copy of it, and that took me so long to get that album. I was like, I'd done that to death by the time I was 14. You know, and it's weird sort of having to like re-buy these things. But then, you know, God knows all my CDs they're given to charity and whatever. So I'm not at all. I don't feel any sort of real connection with them, weirdly. Whereas if I was to give records away, I'd feel
strange.
Yeah, I'd feel really weird. It's different. It's completely different.
Even random ones. Like I say, going back to that storage thing, like at one time I had about 10,000 CDs. I'm not exaggerating. And it got whittled down over time. And now, like, when we're we're FaceTiming the stuff, it'll be like a random, like, Bobby Brown vinyl. And I'm like, that must be shipped to me in England. But if it was on CD, I wouldn't care as much. It's very strange. Why is it like that?
I think the reason is because it's so easily recreated on CD. Like, you can copy CDs.
Yeah.
So it becomes meaningless. You can't copy records.
No.
You can't reproduce records. I mean, you could, but it'll cost you money.
Yeah, that's true.
Whereas CDs, you can just, I'll make a copy of that. And it becomes it has less and less value.
Let's go back to a second about you growing up. So you were telling me your parents are super into music, and you were starting to tell me a story about Iggy Pop and your mom.
Yeah, so there's two. There's the Cramps and Iggy Pop.
Oh, okay.
So when I was growing up, one of my earliest memories of sort of interactions with me and my mum that I can think of was going on the way. It must have been like nursery school, or maybe like the start of primary school, like very start, like. And so one of the first. This is really weird, but one of the first memories that I had was my mum singing "I'm Bored" to me on the way to like nursery or school, whatever. And the other one she used to sing was "Human Fly." However,
what do your parents do, or what did they do with them when you were growing up?
So my mum is a home tutor, like English home tutor, and my dad is a graphic designer, or was a graphic designer. Kind of doesn't really do that now. He drives naughty kids to school now.
Does he?
Yeah. Which is cool.
So that's one of your first memories.
Yeah, so it's like a proper significant memory anyway, like one that really stands out that I can almost see. I mean, you know, memories are weird anyway because you kind of recreate them a little bit in your head, don't you? You sort of join all the dots that maybe weren't even there. But yeah, and then it wasn't until I was quite a bit older. I remember my mum and dad having the Cramps' Greatest Hits album, or EP. So I remember that, and I remember hearing Human Fly from a young age on that. But it wasn't until I was older that I heard I'm Bored. Like, I must have been about 17 when I first heard it. And I was like, hang on a minute, I know these lyrics. I was like, I went home, I was like, Mum, you used to sing that. That sounds absolutely, you say it absolutely nothing like the actual song. Like, you made it sound all like melodic and stuff. And it's not at all like that.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so.
Would you say that Iggy was a musical hero? Like, who were some of your musical heroes when you were growing
massively.
up? Yeah.
He's a mainstay for me since I was sort of old enough to appreciate, or to, you know, when you get to a certain age and you start being into more than one genre. For me, it was probably about 15 that I stopped being just into hip hop, like old school hip hop, and started getting into, you know, other things. And I'd listen to like Lust for Life album, The Idiot, and that was really a big thing for me. He was, and I was always. I was always exposed to it when I was younger, but I wasn't really old enough to really appreciate it. And when I started to appreciate it, he was like a really big thing for me. Him and the Stooges massively. Wu-Tang also huge. I'd say Chuck D as well. Maybe even some of the sort of there's sort of the, I don't know how much you're into the sort of like mid-80s to early 90s sort of wave of stuff that came before shoegaze, like the English stuff that came, like Spacemen 3 and people like that. But they're definitely massively influential to me. And Prince.
Still cannot accept that he's dead.
Oh, it's horrible.
I still can't accept it.
Yeah, it's brutal.
I really can't believe it. Sorry, like I've said like 5 times in a row just now, but it's just, I was saying this to someone earlier, like I said, is there ever going to be another I don't think there's ever going to be icons like the ones we're talking about right now. I just think that we live in a society, like the kind of longevity. I mean, Iggy, I think, and Iggy's gone like up and down. I mean, I don't know if you remember this or if you were too young to know, but he did these weird insurance ads.
Yeah,
where there was like a puppet.
Yeah.
It's like, who can do that and still be credible?
Oh, I know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's just so bizarre. And I can't think of anyone like...
He's just got something that's just, nobody else has got it. No, and no one even knows what it is, but nobody else has got it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. I love him. Yeah, and I absolutely love Prince too. So tell me this, what are you working on right now? What is in the pipeline?
So I've got a few ideas for like new nights. There's one that there was a night that I used to do. I did one of punk night. It's like 75 to 85.
Are you very strict?
No, but then I like to have restrictions so that it doesn't end up going to, because punk is such a broad term. It can be anything. I don't like pop punk, and I don't like things being labelled as punk when they're not really that.
So do you have pretty strict, like, it has to have these, like, things, these kind of characteristics to be, like, would Green Day would you ever play Green Day?
No. See,
not even old Green Day.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it, but I think when I say 75 to 85, it's because I want to keep, if I ever have anyone DJing, I want to keep them restricted to the sounds that I think will work.
And flow together.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise it can go off, it could be Mudhoney, or it could be, anything. It could be Nirvana and stuff. And it's just like, that's cool, that's all great, I love that sort of stuff, but that's not part of this sort of thing. So I've got that night, sort of, that I'm still trying to work out how to do that again, because I only did one. I'm still trying to work out getting a new venue and starting that up again. But at the moment, mostly, I'm not really looking at new sort of DJing things. I'm doing my own music.
Are you? So I could see you being like the bedroom producer, like / like you tinkering around in your house and just making something ridiculously cool by yourself. Is that what you're doing? I could totally, like, if I were to draw the person, it'd be like, oh, there's Henry. Like, I could see you doing that. Is that happening?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I don't want to say that it's cool or anything. I don't want to.
It's
toot
cool.
my own horn or whatever. But yeah, I mean, so bedroom stuff. Like, that's. I've got some like great analog synths and stuff, so I'm just sort of focusing on that a little bit more than necessarily the DJing. That's more my sort of, I don't know, that's almost my creative outlet, because once you're doing DJing, once you're sort of DJing as a job, it kind of loses some of the excitement when it's when it's like
it's work,
when it's constant. I mean, it's and
you're depending on that that's how you make your money.
Exactly.
It's not like an added on. I mean, like I think I did a one night a week for I think 2 years, and by the end I was just like, it's a grind, and that was one night. You know what I mean? How many nights out are you doing?
Well,
usually?
I normally do about 3
nights
on average, about 3 a week. Yeah. So it's late. Some of them will finish at 4 in the morning.
Oh my
5
God.
in the morning. So sometimes
destroys the next day.
Yeah, exactly. And I do one set that I do in London. It's my only one that I still do in London, because I used to have them all in London, and then I moved to Brighton and sort of slowly sort of like moved them over, sort of filled up my calendar in Brighton rather than London. And the only one that I've got left in London is an 8-hour set.
Oh my God. Is that you by yourself for 8 hours?
Just me, no break. 8 hours, all vinyl.
Oh, well, first of all, how are you carting all the vinyl up there? Do you have a wheelie bag?
No. I have achy shoulders, that's what I have.
Do you have like a vinyl, like I have like a vinyl bag. Is that what you're bringing?
I have a bag.
Oh my God, Henry.
And then I have a bag for my 12-inch records.
Oh my God.
And that will take about 100. And then I have a case that's about 200 7-inch singles, and that kind of does me.
there's not much wiggle room in that, though. Again,
No,
is
not
there?
at all. No.
Oh my! You must
There's
just be
but-
drained. Do you spend the night in London after that?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes I'll stay at like my brother's and that. But
Oh my
yeah.
God!
Sometimes I get the train home.
Oh my! It's like first thing in the morning.
No,
it like
see
the
this.
6
So
a.m.?
this is the good thing. This is what makes it sound not as bad. Is that it's on the Sunday.
Okay.
It's once a month on the Sunday, and it starts at 3 and finishes at 11.
Oh, that's like last train though. That's so tight.
Yeah. So that's it. Sometimes I get the last train, and also I've been drinking the whole day.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I get, like 8 to 10 drinks.
Oh yeah.
So I'm having 8 to 10 pints.
Oh, yeah,
over
yeah.
that amount of time. So by the time I finish,
Oh,
I don't
my
really
God.
care about what records I'm playing.
You need to drink that much to carry all that vinyl around, though. My goodness. So, I want to really talk about how you got into doing your own night, and also more about your own stuff. But just a couple things before we do that.
sure,
What was the last record that you bought for yourself?
Oh God, I buy them.
Do you buy them all the time?
Yeah, like all the time. So, the last one was what's his name? I think it's Jimmy Hughes, this soul singer. Jimmy Hughes, Neighbour Neighbour is the last record that I bought. That was my own. Because sometimes I buy them for other people and things like that. But that's the last. That must be. I'm trying to work it out. Sorry.
It's okay.
That must be the last record that I bought. Jimmy Hughes, Neighbour Neighbour. It's like a soul-y, sort of very Atlantic soul sounding R&B track, like really like bass heavy. It's great.
Do you find yourself going back? Like I once read the lead singer of Fugazi. He said there's so much music older music that I still don't know that I could just be discovering, and I find that with myself. Not that I'm not open to new music, but like I just got into Nina Simone, like super big time about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I'll just get I'll find these like
Have you
random.
seen the documentary? It's amazing, right?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Like it's just incredible.
Yeah.
Do you find that, or do you find that it's more equal old and new, or?
I feel that I try and make a conscious effort to listen to new things because I don't want it to be unbalanced, but it is because there's so much old stuff that, like you say, that I don't know about, and there's even genres that I don't know about that all these tiny little subgenres, and I'm thinking, I want to listen to them. I want to sort of broaden my knowledge. I'm constantly wanting to hear more things and new sounds that aren't necessarily new sounds, but they're new to me.
Or the family tree, I think, is so interesting there too, because I know so many people that they got into Nirvana, but then they working backwards. There's so many amazing things that Kurt,
Young and stuff.
that aren't necessarily a straight line, obvious line from Kurt. What's one of the biggest challenges you've had in terms of keeping all these different nights going and are people constantly trying to come in and take your ideas for nights and start their own, or?
I don't know if people necessarily take any of my ideas, because I think mine are I'll only ever do a night where I know that I know enough about that genre to do it. So.
Do you buy records sometimes at the night? You're like, okay, I want to do this night, so I'm going to buy records. Because that could get expensive. That could
sometimes I have to bump up my if I'm I want to do some big beat stuff, 90s big beat, then I'll be like, okay, I know it all, but I just don't have the record, so I'll be like, okay, I'll go on a little hunt, sort of thing. But mainly, I would say that the things that I do that are my own nights, not just the DJing, but the actual events that I do are quite. They're quite specific. I do a psych night that's 60s and 70s psych, and I do, like I said, I do an old school hip hop or golden age sort of hip hop night. And there's not many other people in Brighton that are into those sorts of things as much as I am necessarily, especially with doing it on vinyl. There's other people doing other things, and I kind of leave them alone and do their things, and I guess they kind of do it with me. They leave me to do my own thing. But when I was living in London, I used to put on bands a lot.
As a promoter, so you'd be the promoter. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I used to do bands and I'd DJ and stuff. So, but then when I moved to Brighton, I was like, you know what? It's so much work putting on bands, and there's so many other people in Brighton that have got
it's on lock.
Yeah, they've
So you
got
look
it
for your
sorted.
niche, basically. and
Yeah,
you-
exactly. Yeah.
I mean, one thing you and I were talking about before is how stressful it is when you think, okay, I'm going to do this night, and are people going to come? So is
Yeah.
that a challenge for you? Like, I think it's
Oh,
a brilliant
massively.
idea. How do you, like, what do you do for that? Like, how are you constantly on social media trying to get
Yeah,
people?
trying to, but then I don't enjoy social media, so it's like
Yeah, I don't like
it's a
social
really
media.
real struggle. I mean, I'm on it a lot, and so people would think that I enjoy it, but I don't necessarily. So it's like it's weird, and we're at a weird time, I think, between especially with like events and things, because people want things to be free, which all mine are, but then when they're free, they're not as almost like not as appealing.
Because if you're not
Because it's-
paying, then who cares? It's like,
Yeah,
like the value goes
exactly.
down. Yeah. So
But then no one wants to pay.
Yeah.
So it's like you're kind of caught
what's
between.
the sweet spot on that?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're trying to get people to come. You're like, okay, well, there won't be a barrier if it's free to people getting in. But then if, we used to see this a lot with pricing records we were trying to promote. So if it's like, if something's £3, people are getting like, well, it must be crap if it's only £3.
Yeah, exactly,
You
yeah.
know, if it's like £20, it must be amazing inside. You know what
exactly,
I
yeah,
mean?
that's
So I
it.
could see that being a definite, like, hard thing to do. And
Yeah.
like how you promote it. You don't want to over promote things online.
Yeah.
And especially like I do not like social media, but it's like a necessary evil.
Yeah.
And that I find it quite intrusive, and I don't like it, but you have to use it. So how do you
Yeah.
how do you kind of balance that? So all those things for sure.
Yeah, it's weird how, especially with like promoting, you've got the old school way of promoting, i.e.,
Which is what would you say?
posters,
Yeah.
and stuff. You know, that's like if
Does
you've
that
got a
still
night.
work?
Well, this is the thing. It's such a it's so. I don't know. It's sort of like unresolved whether
Yeah.
it works or not. It's so hard to judge. So there's the sort of posters thing, and then there's the social media thing. It's like the battle of the two, and it's like, what do you focus on more? So it's trying to find a balance between those two, and it's really hard to sort of.
Where do
I
you
mean,
put your
social
time and
media,
money?
You can, yeah,
You know,
exactly.
we had this guy when I lived in San Francisco. That was like he was the go-to guy in San Francisco, and his entire job was he'd like built up enough clientele that he would just hang stuff on the telephone poles. And I think there's something if it's kind of like nostalgic for pre-internet. I do think
Yeah.
that does give it some sort of validity.
Yeah.
But then who's your audience? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Your audience is getting all their information online.
Exactly. And then,
So-
but then you're like, well, there is a certain part of my audience that use social media and they can care less about posters or even look at them. And then there's another bit of your audience that are like, they'll only look at posters. They'll specifically go to areas that have loads of posters and look for the night. So you're kind of, I guess you're kind of like, you've got a sort of, there your people doing that and there your people doing that, and you've got to cater for both, I guess.
We kind of hit on some of these things just to kind of go back to doing the club nights again. When did you decide to do that first club night on your own?
God. I first did one. Well, I kind of been doing it sort of on and off ever since I sort of first DJ'd that time. I'd sort of been interested in it and wanted to do it. So I'd done things like I'd put on a night with my two brothers, but that was like there was probably about 7 people there. And then I did something a couple of years later. That was really successful, actually. That was my first success as putting on nights. It was called The House. And it was all sort of like just funk, pure funk. And we had a few guest DJs. We had Princess Julia, who was like a club kid in the 80s. We had Mark Moore from S Express. We had Femi Fem from Young Disciples. And that was like the first one where it was actually successful. And I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. I can do something with this.
What are some things that are kind of continuous things in terms of if you're going to put on a night? What are some things to think about, plan for, and it's kind of like your checklist, and maybe that came off of that as like a blueprint of that first one?
I suppose it's sort of like once you do one or a few, you kind of realise, oh yeah, I just did not think of that, or I didn't think of that, and I definitely need to. Things like projection's always a big thing for me. So I always feel like you need visuals of some kind with any sort of night. You need something for people to look at, because often, as bad as it is, sound isn't enough for people. So that's one of the things that I always think about. What can I do in terms of projections? Whether it's just a still image that's great, or whether it's something that's moving. I mean, with my psychedelic night, I have these like great sort of old visuals, sort of like animated 60s, late 60s animations sort of stuff going on. So that's one thing. I would say anything else sort of decorative, I always think about.
Like making a vibey theme.
Exactly.
Like,
exactly.
can you give us an example of that?
I guess things like it's more things like more of the stuff of what things look like. You know, with the psychedelic night that I do called Oz, we all like hang big mandalas and stuff. So it's sort of, rather than it just being a venue, it's, you know, it feels like it's a little bit more.
You make it bespoke for your night.
Yeah.
So it's a special.
So there'll be like mandalas.
Experience.
We have incense burning, you know, as cheesy as it is. So but it all sort of kind of
engaging all the senses.
Lava lamps, yeah, you know.
So where do all these props live? Do they live at your house?
Yep.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so those
So
are
I've
all at
got
your
like
house.
a suitcase of like mandalas, you know, about 10 or whatever, like huge sheets, like, you know, Indian style tapestry sheets, and I've got lava lamps that just, they're all like in cupboards and like until the next time I have to get them out.
Do it out. I mean, how do you approach someone? I mean, now you're well known and people, you have a following, it sounds like. But how do you get to that? Like, if let's say, for example, I want to start a yacht rock night.
Yeah.
Do you want to start a yacht rock night?
I wouldn't really know, to be honest.
Oh, we can't do it together. Then I'm so sad.
Yacht rock.
It'd be like the Doobie Brothers, the
okay.
Eagles.
Okay, that'd be quite
the
cool.
Pina Colada song. So I want to do this.
Okay.
What do I do? Like, what are my steps in me thinking I want to promote a night? What do I do?
Okay.
Give me the basic 101.
First thing you need is a theme, and you need to have sort of a rough idea of the kind of stuff you're going to play, and who's going to play it. Is it just going to be you? Are you going to have you and some friends, or are you going to get in special guests and things like that? So you've got an idea of what it's going to look like, what it's going to sound like, and then the next step is approaching venues, trying to find a venue that is right for it, a venue that won't rip you off, because a lot of them do. A lot of them will charge.
How are they ripping you off? Like, what are some...
Well, a lot of venues charge you to hire the place, and then you've got to make back the money
at the door.
Yeah, but usually the higher price is too high for someone that isn't experienced in doing it to be able to make back, sort of thing. So you end up breaking even or whatever, and it's
tons of work.
It's tough, yeah. So what I would normally do is I'd recommend finding somewhere that puts on a night for free, and they'll give you a certain amount, whether it's the bar take or they'll pay you a certain amount for you to hold that night, because essentially you're bringing people to
their venue,
and there's going to be people at that venue anyway, like their regulars and things, so you're just bringing more people, so you shouldn't really have to pay them to do that.
So then how much would you say, just as like a rule of thumb, like if I'm first starting out and I say I want £50 plus 10% of the bar, is there like a rule of thumb, or do you need kind of just maybe do 2, 3, 6 nights in terms of like actual nights to show that you can get people to come?
Yeah, it's sort of the thing is there's not really a rule of thumb. That's what's so confusing, and it's the same with DJing as well. Like when you first start just DJing at venues and they just pay you, there's not really a budget. It's sort of really varied from venue to venue. So the best thing to do is just get in touch with a lot of venues and just find out what's the best deal for you. Because there isn't really, it seems strange, but there's not really a sort of
benchmark that
there's not at all.
Standard.
Yeah, there's particularly in Brighton, London a bit more so, but particularly in Brighton, there's not really a sort of it really varies. Like one place will do, so and so for so much, and that'll be amazing. And then you'll go to another place and you'll think, oh, it'll be roughly the same. And it's completely out of whack to what that is.
What are some differences you've seen with the club scene between London and Brighton, or is there really any?
I think Brighton is great for clubs because it's got more of a community feel. London's obviously bigger, and it has, people in London. People don't all live in one area. They all live sort of like spread out. Even if it is one area like East London or North East London, they're still quite spread out. And there's so many venues that there's so many things to go to in London. So, a lot of the time people are like, they'll either go to something that is established or something that's new, rather than seeking out things.
Yeah.
Whereas in Brighton, it's smaller.
More
So
convenient.
you can be like, you can go round the corner and you're at a great night, and there wouldn't necessarily be loads of other nights going on that same night.
Is there a specific night? Because like Thursday and Saturday are the nights that I usually would put on nights. Is there like, when you're first starting out, should you just take any night, like a Monday or a Tuesday, to kind of get your chops down? Or
I would try and stay away from doing weeknights.
Really?
Apart from Thursday. Thursday and Friday, I'd stay away from the others because
they always want to give you those when you first start out.
they always
don't
want to
they?
give you them, but
Like Monday
they're
or Tuesday.
they're the most depressing.
Yeah.
Like you'll feel so like deflated because 9 times out of 10, I mean, you might get loads of people at the
Maybe
gig
one.
or the event
Yeah.
or whatever, but most of the time it's not going to be as busy as you expected it to be or hoped it would be. So it kind of deflates you, and then you're like, why am I doing this? No, it's pointless. So I would go for Thursday, Friday and Saturday. They're the ones.
What are some tips that you would give anyone outside of what we already talked about that want to start being a promoter of bands or wants to start putting on their own DJ club nights?
I would say one of the biggest things to do is just get your name out there.
And how do you do that?
Emailing as many people as possible is how I started. Emailing as many venues as possible, even if they don't want to put anything on, you're still getting your name out. They'll still remember you. And if you sort of bug people, be relentless and be shameless about it. So just
would you send them a list of like, on my night I will play Queen Latifah, De La Soul? Like, would you be like, so they have an idea?
I would give them that. Maybe send them a Spotify playlist of the kind of stuff that I would play.
What kind of promotion you would do around it as well?
Yeah,
is that good to do?
And I think you'd want to basically, when you think about what your night wants to what you want your night to be, and all the elements that you want, like who you're going to have DJing, what it's going to look like in the venue, what music you're playing, blah, blah, like how much you're charging, if you're charging, what the poster's going to be like, if you've got any artwork, all of that should go to
It's like a business plan.
Yeah. So you're almost like, you're proposing to them, you're almost pitching to them via email.
So don't go in person.
Well, I mean, you could do, but most of the time, I think
be the bartender or someone else.
Yeah, and a lot of the time, it's sort of, you end up coming away I've done that before, and you end up coming away and being like, oh, there was this that I wanted to ask, there was that one that I wanted to ask, and if you're anything like me, you won't be able to articulate everything that you want in one.
You can edit it down and make it very crisp and succinct. So how can people find you if they want to hear about your music, which I'm really intrigued about? How would you describe the music that you're doing? Like what are 2 artists that sound like, would you say?
I don't know. I suppose there's a lot of Spaceman 3 in there that I talked about earlier. There's a lot of Eno in it.
And what is your SoundCloud account that we can go check it out at?
It is just Henry WP. So Henry W-P.
And what is your Instagram, Twitter? How do you get information out to people? If we're coming to Brighton, I want to see what you have going on. How do I get a hold of you to follow you and see?
DJ Henry WP on both Facebook and Instagram. And everything that I'm doing is posted up on there, and I talk about it quite a lot. I talk about it daily, pretty much.
What's the future for Henry WP? What do we want to do in the next 5 years?
I want to do more of my own nights, because currently I'm only doing 2 regular ones. I'm DJing throughout the month, but I'm only doing 2 a month of my own actual nights where I have other people DJing with me, and it's a big event. So I'd like to do more of them, and I'd also like to start doing more private events, which would be cool, I think, because it's more catered. I've started doing them a bit more, and
with the vinyl.
Yeah, and it's sort of like, you know, it's nice because I'm almost like, people give me a bit of a theme that they want, and it challenges me more to be like, okay, right, I need to create this for this person because it's their, you know, they've spent money on this, so I need to cater to that. I'm also going to start doing some podcasts as well.
Ooh, cool.
Talking about,
Can I be a guest?
Definitely. Oh my God, I would love that. So I'm going to get like one guest each episode, talking about a different genre each episode.
Ooh, God, what would I get? There's so many different genres I can do.
Well, there we go then.
I know.
So you got your pick. So there'll be anything from like drum and bass to funk and soul to like...
Not yacht rock though, because it sounds like you're not into it.
Well, I mean,
I could bring the yacht rock.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was a
I could
thing.
bring the smooth. There we go.
That's not even a term I've ever heard.
Oh, there we go. I'll make you a playlist.
Yeah.
Well, Mary, thank you so much. So much fun, and I
thank you.
seriously want to come to one of your nights. I so want to come DJ at one of your things. Can I come sometime, please, please?
Always welcome.
Okay, well, I'm definitely going to follow your Instagram and your Facebook, DJ Henry WP.
That's right.
I hope you guys also check him out, and thank you so much for coming to another episode of Inside the Music Industry. See you next time.